I'd like to make a short comment and get the response from the two eminent speakers. I noticed that we have studiously avoided the elephant in the room, which is politics. Because economic growth, economic development is tied in intrinsically with politics. You cannot run away from it. So our discourse will have to look at politics, ethnic issues in this country. Because you're talking about economic growth, tied into education. Education is tied into political issues in the country. So the discourse should therefore settle on one of the key issues, which is an ethnic problem in this country, which cannot be avoided. You cannot sweep it under the carpet. We should discuss it rationally, reasonably, and try to find a solution to these problems which are plaguing us. So I'd like to get the response from the speakers.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. It's actually here, but I've only been able to ask 2 questions from my 10. And one of them is, what really is the reality of government and politics in economics? So let me just pass it on. So this question is a big one, so I'll pass it on to both.
To answer this question, okay. You see, this country has no discussion, very little discussions on policies. And policies are often discussed in the form of ethnic problems. And since the change of government, the media is largely free. So far, none of us call the editors and say, you do this and you do that. But the medias are very much defined by ethnic perspective, without a common perspective. There's no civic nationalism, there's no civic national perspective. So every day, we are defined by the extreme. We're defined by the extreme, we are responding, and part of the problem that we are facing is that this government is a coalition of impossible allies. These are people who are not supposed to get married, but now they have kids. They have to run the household. So you're dealing with 2 levels of problem. One level of problem is how to ensure that the forces aligned to Anwar and Dr. Mahathir eventually find a common ground and heal the wounds, move forward, set the basis for the nation for the next 20 years. So I think that is an important part of it, and hopefully it can be done well. The second part of it is the supporters of Bersatu and the supporter of DAP were totally from different background. So very often you're defined by and of course you outside, now MCA is playing one game, UMNO is playing one game. They are playing the extreme voices. Of course, UMNO with PAS. So very often we are defined by the extreme. But yet, actually, this nation has a huge common ground. This nation has a huge middle. We are almost the same in many ways. I came from a very poor family. We are almost the same. I think I can empathize with the life of a Malay taxi driver much better than most Malay elite. Because my father was a taxi driver. I think now the language is to empathize with the Grab driver. And I can do very well, I think. So we are actually very similar. But we have yet to come to a stage in which jobs become an emotive issue. Losing a job is actually very emotional. But somehow in our public discourse, no one talks about the pain of losing a job and the needs of providing jobs, and providing job being an emotive public discourse issue. We have not come to that stage. But we have to build that narrative, we have to build that public understanding to make, put it in simple language, to make jobs sexy. As a sexy topic, as an emotive topic. Can we do that? I think these are possible. These things are possible. I give you an example. I came back from Australia in 2005. At that time, the opposition lost very badly in the 2004 election. And when I came back, a few friends said, let's do something. Well, what to do? Eventually, we decided on working on electoral reform. Actually, who cares about whether election is fair or not fair? Actually, this was not a topic back in 2004. But through constant work for 2.5 years, on 10th of November 2007, 50,000 Malaysians went on the streets protesting and calling for electoral fairness. My point is, electoral fairness was an obscure topic. But can we mainstream it? Possible. And can we mainstream the questions of jobs? Can we mainstream the questions of pay? Can we mainstream the questions of public transport? Can we mainstream the questions of other, say, gender equality? It is possible, but we need that discourse in order to shift away from a race-based discourse. Thank you.
I think this issue of politics and economics has been there with us. Looking back in 1957, when we became independent, the situation was that each race lived separately. The Malays were basically plantation, nelayan, fishermen, and rural subsistence economy. The Chinese were basically in the towns, commercial, and the Indians were in rubber estate, and there were only two products, tin and rubber. So at that time, the politics was race-based, and people lived differently at different places, and the economics, where they made the money, was also race-based. So the government of the day, of course, we had the leadership of Tunku Abdul Rahman, and he was a perfect leader for a young nation. The idea was basically to move to a Malaysian identity, away from that race-based politics and economics. We have come some way, but the challenge is still with us. We have to move to have to put the Malaysian identity at the top of it all. And I think that the majority of the Malaysians are not extremist right or left. They are in the middle. But as usual, the people on the right, whatever race, they make the loudest noise. So we don't hear the silent majority, because the silent majority just slaves. But even having said that, we have to work towards a Malaysian identity. But to me, the most important way that we can do that is to remove the issue of economic deprivation. If we can bring families and Malaysians to that decent living standard, whatever it is, then there will be less anger, and there will be less possibility of them succumbing to people who play the religious card. Thank you very much.